Have you ever felt this? That moment, at 2 in the morning. Your eyes are burning. The coffee bottle is empty. The book lies open in front of you, lit by a pale yellow light. You've read the same paragraph 4 times. 4 times. And you have no idea what it says. The words are there. They enter through your eyes. But they simply disappear. There's nothing. Just a tired, frustrating void. And what do? What we've all been taught to do. You push harder. You force yourself. You think, if I stay here 2 more hours, if I suffer a little longer, it'll sink in. It has to sink in. We treat our brain like a muscle that needs to be beaten into submission, or like an empty container that we can fill to the brim if we just pour the information in fast enough. We glorify the all-nighter, the 8-hour study marathon. We look at it as a badge of honor. I studied 10 hours straight yesterday, but what if I told you most of that time was garbage? What if I told you that the feeling of effort, that pain you feel, is not the sound of learning happening? It's the sound of your brain shutting down. It's the sound of biology saying, stop. There is a number. It's not the speed of light, but it's as fundamental to your existence as that is. 25 to 30 minutes. That's it. Half an hour. That's the limit. It's not a suggestion from some productivity guru. It's a biological barrier. It's the event horizon of human focus. Dr. Marty Lobdell, a man who spent his entire life observing how we fail to learn, discovered something that should terrify any student who has ever pulled an all-nighter. After about 30 minutes of continuous intense focus, your ability to retain new information doesn't just decrease, it plummets, it falls off a cliff to almost zero. Imagine a graph. On the vertical axis, your comprehension and retention. On the horizontal, time. In the first few minutes, you're a genius. It climbs fast. You're absorbing, connecting. But then you hit the 25-minute mark. The curve starts to flatten. At 30, it begins to drop. At 40 minutes, if you haven't stopped, you're operating at a fraction of your capacity. At 60 minutes, you're just staring at ink shapes on dead paper. You're physically present, but neurologically absent. And the scariest part? You don't notice. You think you're still studying, but it's an illusion. A cognitive lie we tell ourselves to justify the suffering. Why does this happen? Why are we built with such a short battery? Because learning is not passive. Learning is a violent, expensive chemical process. Creating new memories, forging new synapses, requires neurotransmitters. It requires real physical energy. Acetylcholine, dopamine, glutamate. When you focus intensely, you're burning that fuel at an alarming rate, and the tank is small. When it empties, it doesn't matter how hard you press the accelerator, the car won't move. You can sit in the library for 6 hours, but if you don't respect the recharge cycle, you actually studied for 30 minutes. The other 5.5 hours were just self-torture. But here's the magic, the thing that changes everything. What happens if you stop? Not stop to give up. Stop strategically. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. You get up, you leave the desk. You don't pick up the phone. That's crucial, and we'll talk about it. You just exist. You listen to a song. You look at the sky. You stretch your legs. What happens in your brain during those 5 minutes is miraculous. It's like rebooting the system. The graph curve, the one that was falling towards zero, shoots back up to the top, to 100%. You've refueled. If you study 6 hours straight, you get one peak of learning at the beginning and a giant valley of forgetting for the rest. But if you break those 6 hours into 30-minute blocks with real breaks, you don't get one peak. You get 12 moments of maximum absorption. You've transformed an exhausting marathon into a series of high-performance sprints. You're no longer fighting your biology, you're surfing it. It's the difference between trying to knock down a wall with your head and simply opening the door. But wait. There's a villain in this story, a silent villain that lives on your study desk. It's called recognition. Lobdell identified it as the most dangerous trap for the student. You pick up your book. You read a chapter. You underline the important parts. The book turns neon yellow. You read again, and you feel that warm, comfortable, good feeling. Ah, I know this. I remember this. You look at the underlined sentence and say, yes, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I know. But you don't know. You recognize. And the difference between recognition and knowledge is the difference between seeing a face in a crowd and knowing a person's soul. Recognition is visual. It's a passive trigger. I've seen this before. The brain loves recognition because it's easy. It spends no energy. But on the test in real life, there is no visual trigger, no underlined sentence to fire the recognition. There's just a blank sheet and your brain. And if you only recognize the information, you'll look at that sheet and panic will set in. The blank will happen. You didn't forget. You never knew. The only way to turn recognition into knowledge, to etch the information into the physical structure of your brain, is to force retrieval. It's active recall. You read. You close the book. And now comes the painful part. The part no one likes. You try to explain what you just read to the void, or better yet, to an empty chair. If you can't explain it in your own words, simple and direct, without looking at the text, you don't know it. Period. When you try to remember and fail, you feel frustration. That frustration is good. That frustration is the feeling of your brain trying to build a neural bridge where there was once an abyss. That's where learning happens. When you look at the answer immediately, you abort the process. You deny your brain the chance to build the structure. Lobdell called it SQR3. Survey, question, read, recite, review. But the heart of it is recitation. Speaking out loud. It sounds crazy, right? Talking to yourself in your room. Teaching quantum mechanics to your cat. But it's brilliant. Because when you speak, you have to organize thought. You have to take the idea out of the abstract, foggy realm of your mind and force it to become concrete, linear, grammatical. You instantly discover where your holes are. Energy is equal to, mass times something. There. You found the hole. Now you can fix it. Passively reading and rereading is like gently running your hand over a piece of wood, hoping it becomes polished. Active recitation is grabbing the sandpaper and scrubbing. It's hard work, it's tiring, but it's what turns the wood. And the environment? Have you ever thought about where you study? Most of us study in the bedroom, in bed, or at the kitchen table where we eat. The human being is an association machine. We are complex Pavlovian dogs. If you study in bed, your brain gets confused. Is it time to sleep or time to calculate integrals? It doesn't know whether to release melatonin to shut you down or norepinephrine to keep you focused. The result? You don't sleep well and you don't study well. You create limbo, a dead zone of productivity. Lobdell proposes something radical, the study lamp, a totemic object. You choose a place, a specific desk, and you turn on a specific lamp, only for studying. If your phone rings, you turn off the lamp and leave. If you want to daydream, you turn off the lamp. If you want to eat, you turn off the lamp. Over time, you condition a biological response. When that light turns on, your brain goes into war mode. It knows what's expected of it. No inertia. No procrastination. It's a switch. Click. Focus. It's not magic. It's classical conditioning. You're hacking your own operating system. But none of this, absolutely none of it, matters if you neglect the final phase. The phase where the real magic happens. The phase that modern culture tries to eliminate: sleep. We treat sleep like the enemy of productivity. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sleep is for the weak. Wrong. Sleep is where you become intelligent. During the day, while you study, you're just collecting pieces, fragments of information. They're floating in your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for short-term memory. Think of the hippocampus as your computer's RAM. It's fast, it's versatile, but it's volatile. And it's small. If the computer shuts down or gets too full, everything is lost. The real learning, the consolidation, the transformation of something I heard into something I am, happens during REM sleep. It's at night, while you're unconscious, that the brain does the heavy lifting. It takes those fragile memories from the hippocampus and transfers them to the cerebral cortex, the hard drive. It archives them, it creates connections, it throws out the trash, the trivialities you don't need, and reinforces what is vital. You've had the experience of studying something all day, understanding nothing, going to sleep frustrated, and the next morning, mysteriously, the answer seems obvious. That wasn't a miracle. It was your brain working the night shift. It was knitting the information together while you dreamed. If you study 12 hours a day and sleep 4 hours, you're throwing away 80% of your effort. You're filling a leaky bucket. You're writing an important document and pulling the plug from the wall before clicking save. It's a biological tragedy. Sleep is not the end of the learning process. It's the final stage of memory manufacturing. Without it, there is no finished product. So we come back to the initial question. Why is it so hard? Why do we fail so much? Because we were taught to fight against time instead of working with it. We think learning is a straight line, but it's a cycle. A pulse, focus, rest, tension, relaxation, input, consolidation. Lobdell's great biological rule is not about being smarter. It's about being more human. It's accepting that we are biological organisms, subject to rhythms and limits. When you finally understand this, the guilt disappears. The guilt of stopping after 30 minutes. The guilt of sleeping 8 hours. It vanishes. Because you realize that rest is not the opposite of work. Rest is part of the work, perhaps the most important part. The student who stays up all night, surrounded by energy drink cans, red eyes, trying to force the last drop of information into an oversaturated brain, is not a hero. He's someone fighting a war with Stone Age weapons against modern physics. He's trying to run faster than light, trying to accelerate infinite mass with finite energy. It won't work. The universe has rules. The brain has rules. You want to learn more? Learn less at a time. You want to remember forever? Forget the idea that you're a machine. Embrace the fact that you're a living being that breathes, gets tired, and needs rhythm. Stop measuring your study in hours of suffering. Start measuring it in cycles of real focus. Stop confusing familiarity with competence. Test yourself until it hurts. And for the love of everything sacred, sleep. Knowledge is not about how much you can endure. It's about how well you can function. The biological rule is there. It has always been there. Printed in your DNA, in the chemistry of your synaptic cleft, in the architecture of your sleep. You can fight against it and lose, as you have done so far. Or you can align with it. And when you do, when you stop fighting the current and start swimming with it, learning stops being this painful, impossible climb. It becomes what it was always meant to be, the natural and inevitable expansion of who you are. 299,992, 458 meters per second is the limit of the universe out there. 30 minutes is the limit of the universe in here. Respect the limit, and you will see how far you can truly go.